Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 429. Today I'm going to talk about Pandemic Legacy. This is going to be the first of two reviews. I've played the game to completion. This is going to be the non-spoiler review, and then I'm going to follow that up with a review that has all 100% spoilers. So do not watch that review if you haven't played the game all the way through, or if you just don't care about spoilers, then you can watch that. I will go in, this will be short, I'll go into just a little bit of detail, try not to spoil anything at all, and then there's a lot of stuff I really want to talk about though that I'm going to put in the spoiler review because, well, first of all, I give the game a 10 out of 10. It's amazing. Right now, it's probably my game of the year. There's a few games I haven't played yet. I'd have a hard time replacing this with anything. It's a very unique experience for me. I didn't play Risk Legacy, so the sort of arc of the game is so much that I had played 18 games of this in the last couple of weeks, and I had to take notes. So I'm just kind of work through my notes here. Just go buy it, and then you can probably just shut the video off and buy it, and I'll be happy. I will say, if you've never, ever played Pandemic, then you can jump into this and play like just sort of the first scenario, so to speak. You take some rules out, the rules to give you, how to do it. Then you can play that a couple of times, and then you can jump into it, because once you start like stickering the board and stuff, there's like really no going back. I will say I think that's awesome. I think it's great. There's a caveat to that, but I'll get to that in a second. I did play 18 games. I had 10 wins and 8 losses, and I don't know if that's really good or bad. It feels about my percentage winning Pandemic. I think I'm around like 60% win rate with Pandemic, which I have played, I don't even know how many times before this game. I played it 2 characters at a time, because you know how in regular Pandemic you get roles. I had 2 roles at any given time. I'm going to stop there without spoiling. And I played it solo all the way through, and that's how I was able to get it done in 2 weeks. Because if I tried to play this, with my family group or with my gamer group, we'd still be like on game 3 or something. So I played it solo, and actually, not coincidentally, prefer Pandemic solo just because of the whole quarterbacking problem. And I've been the quarterback, and I've played with people who are the quarterback, and it's usually not really a big deal. It doesn't ruin anybody's game experience, but just the nature of this game, and it's totally a personal thing, I prefer this solo over most other co-ops, but that's a whole other Pandemic discussion. So it was fine with me to play this solo, and it does work solo. So if you want to buy this and play it solo, I know there's people out there that enjoy doing that. I recommend doing it. I will feel like I did miss out on just a little bit of the social interaction, because I'll talk about that in my other video, but I think it would be better with like 3 or 4 players and actual other people at the table, because there's something that you miss out, but it's perfectly viable to play this 2-player, maybe with a spouse or a partner or something, or you can play it solo like I did and it was fine. But I'm almost 99% sure it's better with players. Still great. Then the other thing is, getting to the whole legacy part of it, is once you finish sort of the campaign or whatnot, you're done. You can't really play it again. You could go back and like try to play something, at the end after you're done with it, but I have no desire to play this ever again. Now I could start, I'd be okay with starting or jumping in on somebody else's campaign and like keeping my mouth shut in terms of spoilers and stuff that I know is happening, in the future possibly, and that kind of stuff. I'd be okay with that. That'd be fine. But I don't want to keep playing this game anymore. I am looking forward to season 2 though. Let's see. The one thing I will say here is, and I kind of went through sort of 2 minds of this. As I played through the game, I kind of felt like, and I've not played with any of the expansions for base Pandemic, but I kind of felt like some of this was expansion material or something, like ideas they had for expansions, and there was like a slight letdown for that. But then I kind of overcame that, because as I kept playing and unlocking new stuff, then I was like, okay, so they are really sort of, leading us over multiple game sessions. So there is a little bit of an arc to your strategy, especially at the end. And I kind of stopped there, but the theme of it for sure goes over multiple plays, and sort of the mechanics and the strategy can as well. I don't want to get too much into that, but I did kind of feel like, okay, they're just kind of throwing in expansion stuff. So like, okay, now this and this, like, here's a little mini expansion. Now you play with this. It kind of feels like that a little bit, but they did pull, I think, away from that. So it didn't feel like they were just sort of phoning it in at all. Not even close. But I just wanted to mention that. I thought that was interesting. it does give you, in a sort of dovetailing from that, the opportunity to learn kind of new ways to play Pandemic. Similar to like an expansion, you're like, okay, you got base Pandemic, and then we have this twist or this twist, and then this twist compounds and stacks with this other twist and all that stuff. So that was very cool. In the whole opening of the new things, as you unlock things and do certain things, and you get to certain games and you start unlocking, it's sort of like an advent calendar type of thing, or there's other things that you will open, and that's really awesome. I mean, that is like, I don't want to say quite 50% of the game, but it's a big part of it, because it's like, what is in here? Like, you want to just tear the stuff open and find out what possibly has happened. It'll say like, okay, when you do this, open this, that whole thing. And that's really great. And this is the first time, for me experiencing that. And it's there, you could do a whole video, a whole series of articles, or a whole treatise or whatever on just that aspect of it. Forget about like permanently marking the board. You could just talk about the opening of a new thing during the game, the reveal, the surprise, the twist, the plot shift or whatever. That kind of stuff, the character development, that's interesting in itself. Let's see. Okay, so this is one thing that I mentioned is 10 out of 10. A couple other final thoughts here. It does sort of soften my gripes that I have with Pandemic, because Pandemic to me, well, I think I give it a 6. And I give this a 10. So there's a huge, not a huge, but there's a decent disparity there. And that's because I played Pandemic a lot and just sort of burned out on it, never played with any expansions. And to me, like the whole infection deck thing where you put the stuff on top and then you rebake the stuff you just infected, that's awesome. But then also I burned out on it, and I kind of hate that. Now I do enjoy, Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert a little bit, but those are just, it's a different sort of just emotional feel there. With this, it kind of gets mathy, which I just kind of disliked, because it's sort of that just mechanic sort of repels the theme of it, and it's just like you're sort of just number crunching, moving to space and stuff. This twists that, and that's the whole idea of these sort of little mini expansions, or the twist and the whole legacy thing that really help it. And I think the familiarity of it with Pandemic is like, jump in, I kind of familiar with the world and the theme, and it's because it has that sort of streamlined mechanic that I can lock into, and I think most people will be able to lock into, and then you can sort of just color around it and just gussy it up with all kinds of theme and chrome and all that kind of crazy stuff. It really smooths it out. So I think there's a very interesting thing there with, okay, we see legacy games moving forward. We had Risk Legacy and this. You start with that familiarity that people can lock into, and it's almost like you start with pop culture in a sense, where Risk is a fairly pop culture thing, and Pandemic is definitely borderline pop culture, if not pop culture at this point. So I think that's interesting that you could take that simple thing that everybody kind of knows about, and then you sort of then wrap around this legacy aspect. I think you can do a lot with that. Whereas, like, let's say you start with like a really complex rule set, and then you try to do legacy on top of it, you could trip yourself up, because what if you screw up like one of those rules and stuff? And there was a couple of times where I caught myself, and there might be something that I don't even catch, where I'm like, oh, I should have did this, and I would just go back and do it. Nothing was ever like, game breaking, but I thought, whoa, okay, the first time that happened, I was like, okay, take a deep breath. You need to make sure that you're playing this right. And, I could see that with like a super complex rule set. You're like, oh, we forgot that when you roll the red die, you actually reduced this by 1, and we would have lost these 2 battles or whatever. So that's the interesting thing to me. And the thing that I remember is I remember them announcing this, because this will sort of close up my thoughts and sort of how Legacy fits. I remember them announcing Pandemic Legacy, and I was like, perfect. And I think a lot of people felt that. It was like, oh, that's just, duh. Why didn't, I think of that, of course. Nobody designed Pandemic and Risk Legacy, though those two people came together. But I think, again, that was like, I felt perfect. And then, you sort of wonder after the hype sort of dies down of the initial announcement, and you're like, okay, is it really going to be as good as it seems like it would? And I would say absolutely 100%. Very unique experience. And like I said, the whole sort of familiarity and then, layering on legacy on top of that really, really works well. So go buy it if you're still watching. And then I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to jump in. I'm going to spoil the living daylights out of it. So if you're like halfway through the campaign or something, then, you know, maybe don't even watch it until you're done or about done. Or just watch it, because I could see a mindset. It's probably better if you didn't have it spoiled, I think, for sure, because the whole unwrapping thing, you'd lose that. But I think you could, the legacy stuff doesn't necessarily have to be about spoiling stuff in a way, but yeah, anyway, so we'll talk more about that in the other one. So let's just wrap this up. 10 out of 10, go buy it, play it. You can play it any player count, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're good to go. Okay, see you in the next video, maybe. Okay, bye.